Hi guys, and welcome back to another Board No Game video. Today's video is dedicated to a progression guide, so let's get right into it. So one of the first things that you want to do if you're worrying about your progression is, of course, look into your gear set. And when I say look into your gear set, we're not going to focus too much on the main grid. We're actually going to focus on the subgrid, right? Now, everyone knows for your main grid, you should ideally be focusing on as many SRs that you can get. You know, ideally focus on a particular stat. So you can see on my grid for story specifically, you can see that I have more physical attack than anything else, right? So if I go into my sub gear, you'll notice that I have a legendary here, and it's mostly because of the cost, right? And I know not everyone has legendary, but the things that I want us to take note of is I do have base SRs, particularly, you know, the armored bondage from the Grand Calo event. So, and the reason why I have this here, even though I can't equip it because the cost is so high, is because it provides 3,600 stats, right? 3,600 stats. So let's say that I remove this from my subgrid, right? Equip. And then I re-equip it. How many stats does this provide? If I go down here into the armor bondage, it actually provides 364, points. And the reason why that's so important is because those points essentially, think of it as like a class. Like you just picked up a class that can go into your subgrid and it adds more points. Eventually, if I can get, a full grid of SR weapons that are all like 3,000 plus, for example, this number 7 staff has 3.2k. So you get 3,200 points alone from your subgrid. So it's very important to look at your weapons. And some of you are asking, well, where do I get weapons? You got the Snowflake spear for free. I feel like most people should have that equipped. And then the shell wings was also free via the missions. And if you're wondering where you can get these weapons, if you go into menu, you go into the metal exchange, and then you go into the charm metals, you can actually get these weapons right here, right? Now, I don't recommend picking up the 500 versions. Yeah, I only pick up like particular like weapons that pertain to your class. And then ideally, using the charm metals to buy out like classes or buy out the twilight crystals that's available to you. Honestly, it's up to you and your progression. The pros to getting a weapon is you get stats now. The cons to getting a weapon is eventually that weapon will fall off, right? The pros to getting a class is it doesn't really provide it provides benefits, but at the same time, it's not to a point where you're going to see substantial gains. Like you're not going to see like something crazy. Like for example, if you buy the Sword of Humility or the Sword of Bondage and you're a breaker, that's going to give you much more value than a class currently. But eventually, just note that the Sword of Bondage and the Sword of Humility will eventually be phased out, in a year or two. But honestly, from my perspective, I would personally buy this because I am a spender, alright? Because I spend more, I can get more charm medals. As a free-to-play player, it's harder to get charm medals because you don't pull on as many banners, right? So those are the pros and cons that I can give you. And yes, I know it's unfair, but I want to give you, I want to be honest with you when you're picking out these weapons and why I recommend certain things. So, make sure if you know you're not going to be getting that many charm medals, then you get a class. But if you know and you really need it, then get a weapon of your choice that you desperately or you need so that you can fill out your grid better. And feel free to upgrade stuff like shell wings, and if you don't need the charm medals, so you can get the appropriate stats and fill your subgrid so you can eventually get 3,000 total stats from your weapon slot. So let's go back into gear and into the story mode, right? Story mode gear set. And let's talk about sub armor. Now the thing is with sub armor is, not everyone was able to get a set to SR, right? Because it's a very, very heavy grind. And I want us to compare a few things. You can see here on my left hand side, this is some gear that you can get for free. Notice the difference is it says 1779, 2759, and 3.2, right? So this 3.2 stat weapon or armor piece is actually, not this particular headband, but it's pretty close, right? This one in particular, it's at max enhance. Let's drop it down to 2500 because that's realistic for everyone, right? And let's drop this down to 50. 30. This just makes it more realistic as to what everyone can get. If you technically fill, you know, your subgrid with a bunch of S rank armor, you will eventually total out to roughly 2,000 stats, right? So I still have A rank, you know, and this technically provides 100 total stats. So if you're curious, if I take this off, right, I unequip it and then I re-equip it, it'll provide me, you know, X amount of stats, right? I should actually equip this thing, it's much better. Actually, I'm just gonna completely like remove everything. And then I did some armor upgrades earlier and I haven't really changed up my deck. So you can see here, I made like, you know, there were some changes to my subgrid and I did go up just a smidge, right? So what I'm trying to say is not farm every single set, but at least get enough armor so you can fill out your subgrid, right? Don't farm every single set if you can't afford the AP and stamina, right? There is such thing as like over content. Like for example, in the replicant event, you know, some players, you know, might have felt the burnout because there are so much things to farm. And, you know, I didn't get all of the replicant armor. I didn't go like too crazy on it, right? You can see here, not all of my armor is replicant. So just note that, you know, pay attention to your sub armor in the sense of getting it to S rank at least, right? And don't upgrade anything that starts out at B rank. And there will be the new Space Invaders armor. So Invaders armor goes up to legendary. And you can see the different stats that they're going to be getting, right? Now note that the Invader stuff isn't like too crazily powerful. Like for example, our SR boots from the Automata event provides 3.1k stats. And at legendary, this weapon only provides this armor piece only provides 3.6. So it's not like a huge gain per se. It only goes up to like 400. And I know it makes a huge difference on your main grid, but on your subgrid, it won't make that much of a difference, right? 400 times, you know, 4 is 1600. So you get 1600 more points on your main grid. But on your subgrid, it wouldn't make too much of a difference. But, you know, if you're min-maxing, you can totally go this way. So that's, you know, a sneak peek into the future of like the Invaders event and the armor that's going to be coming. The next thing that I want to cover is nightmares. And honestly, I'm not going to really tell you to upgrade much of armor or nightmares unless it's an SR nightmare. The only nightmares that are like worth upgrading are nightmares that can at least go up to like plus 1000, you know? So, and the reason why is like, if I remove this guy, right, I unequip him, and then I re-equip him, he's gonna provide me like 170 stats, right? Or 169. Close enough. And if I were to unequip the Hateful Snake, for example, he would only provide me like, you know, 60 stats, right? So it's not really advised to go too crazy on the... Where's my snaky boy? There he is. You know, 51 stats. It's not really advised to go too crazy on nightmares as far as upgrading them unless they're an SR. You know, just because like nightmares are very, very difficult to level up. Just note that, you know, I am using the life forms and I am using Lammy, my bad. Lammy the goat for this event, right? So anyways, that's, you know, like the things that I wanted to cover as far as like progressing. The things that I've like thought and feel like it can help you, you know, the pros and cons between friendship medals. But just to go over it again, pretty much what I want us to do is start upgrading, you know, subgrid weapons, particularly ones that will benefit you. So for example, the shell wings, I'm not a magical attacker, but it provides decent enough stats and it does have a decent total, so 3000. So this will provide me 300 300 stats in total. So I will be upgrading something like this versus like, you know, putting an SR weapon because, you know, it provides me technically 50 less stats. And to me, those 50 less stats matter. Next, let's go into sub armor. Sub armor matters a lot in the sense of get everything at least to S rank. You don't have to farm every single armor piece out. Just get it so that you have a full grid of S rank sub armor, right? And then for sub nightmares, you know, only upgrade SR nightmares to level 20. And of course, this isn't really a priority and I don't want us to focus on it too much. And make sure to, you know, weigh the pros and cons or the pros and cons with, you know, the different metal shops and plan out your gear in the sense of what will benefit me the most. Anyways, that's it for this video. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next one.